James Mennie from the Montreal Gazette is here. Hi, James.
Hello.
Okay, so the headline you've given me here is, like the CAQ, Quebec Liberals turn to 2018 to plan their future. What do you mean?
That's right. Martin Coitu, that name, that blast from the past, a former public security minister, Treasury Board president, and municipal affairs minister in the government of Philippe Couillard. Remember him? And he's back. He supported Pablo Rodriguez in the latter's run for the Liberal leadership. And he also helped put together Mr. Rodriguez's economic plan, which, as you may recall, calls for slashing the public service. Almost, once again, traipsing back to 2018, using the old A word, which apparently is okay now, when Mark Carney does it. But back in the day, the Couillard government, for its austerity, it was reviled for its austerity and budget cuts. However, times change and politics always change with them. And now we see the Quebec government that is setting record-setting deficits, $14 billion. Who knows how much the next one will be. And Monsieur Coitu is not just an advisor anymore, not just a supporter. He has been named to run the policy commission of the Quebec Liberal Party, which I find very, very interesting, because it would suggest that this may be the Liberals' version of their shock treatment that Mr. Legault was referring to earlier this week in his inaugural speech. Both parties, though, seem to be turning, going not back to the future, but back to the past. Clearly, the consensus on the speech by Legault was that he was basically, microwaving what used to be the party's platform from 2018 and trying to sell that as being fresh in time for the next election. But I find it interesting to see that the Liberals have also gone into the past. I was under the impression that in the wake of this kind of lethargy that we saw with the Liberals, over the course of the leadership of Dominique Anglade and the criticisms, the backbiting that was involved, that she had to put up with before she left, that we might have been seeing some new faces, new names. Apparently, for the time being, that is not going to be the case. Of course, the bottom line here is, whether it's Martin Coitu or anybody else for a political mastermind to be named later, how do the Liberals manage to get their numbers up with Francophone voters, which right now stands about, are really pathetic, I think, between 14 to 17%, which means they will not even come close to maybe even being the official opposition. Very bad numbers on that score, but I just find it interesting. Will we be seeing any more blasts from the past with the Liberals, or are they going to surprise us? Yes, there is quite literally a year before the next general election. But on the other hand, they better stake out their ground. I look at the Liberals right now, and I don't see a party that is ready to fight, that is ready to campaign. It seems to be perhaps staying in neutral, waiting for their moment to strike. But I really get the impression, given the way that the CAQ government is on the back foot right now, I don't find I'm hearing enough from them. And I find that this announcement, while it's interesting, is hardly one to make people in the regions turn around and say, yeah, you know what, I think I'm going to vote Liberal.
Well, something that may have people in the regions, their ears perking up, is this flood of complaints to the OQLF. As we head to the next year's election, there's going to be a lot more language talk, I think. And now with these new rules about signage, there's been a deluge of complaints coming in. So what's your take on that?
You really have to wonder, however, though, whether the Liberals, or anyone, in fact, is going to stand up and point out the sort of emperor's new clothes that has always surrounded members from the OQLF. We don't know how many plaintiffs there are. And now that the fact that Legault has declared open season on the English language by saying, you know what, you can complain anonymously. For all we know, and I mean, the flood that we're talking about thus far is in the first 4 months of this year, there have been 913 complaints about signage, and that's already half of last year's, the previous year's total of 1,867. However, if they came from the same 10 or 15 people, and no, that is far from impossible, do we really have how can I put it, a crisis? Do we really have a social rebellion over the fact that English is encroaching? Or do we have, in fact, yet another artificially created crisis by the CAQ, which seems to be the only way that this government can try and keep the public's attention, although the polls would now suggest otherwise. But yeah, I find it preposterous that on the one hand, and not just the CAQ, but let's say a governmental apparatus that claims that its primary duty is to protect the French language and culture would allow so loophole-riddled a process to be, and so easily criticize the process to be its main justification for legislation, for going after businesses, for really harassing people who are trying to keep this province's economy afloat, to simply perhaps satisfy some picture bylines over a Quebecor. It's been going on for years. The problem is, I don't think it's a vaudeville that we can afford to play anymore. And as you say, between now and Election Day, there is going to be a lot of talk about language. It's going to be very interesting to see which way that conversation is going to go. I know we saw Pablo Rodriguez, and as far as I'm concerned, really put his foot in it by saying that Bill 21 had maintained social peace. I think that's going to come back to bite him. But in the meantime, will this be another issue of, I guess, we'll just have to, erase more English to protect French? I'm not sure anymore whether that kind of back-ass logic still plays in Quebec, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, whether it works politically or not, it seems, they haven't fined anybody yet, but there are a lot of business owners who are saying they just simply can't afford to change their signs. I think your colleague Andy was going around talking to store owners for the Gazette and found that there's a lot of stores that just aren't able to do this.
Absolutely. And perhaps in the end, as I mentioned earlier on the show, politicians dealing with Bill 96 or Bill 101 have like a flashcard of instant excuses. It was overzealous inspectors or misinterpretation of the law, or perhaps the law is not applicable. We'll have to rethink this particular article, which is really fine and good. Except, couldn't you guys have thought about this before you voted on it? Couldn't you thought about this before you decided to disrupt the operations? And how can I put it? The will to put up with this nonsense in Quebec, because these companies are not all mega corporations either. I think there's a lot of medium-sized businesses that are turning around saying, this might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And now, especially with the real world, i.e., Donald Trump's tariffs and the economy and the challenges that everyday people are facing economically, to sort of actually kill oxygen discussing a topic like this in 2025 Quebec does seem a bit strange.
All right, James Mennie, thanks for this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.